All right, Mr. Chair, you're live.
All right. The Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council will come to order. It's 10 a.m. on October 14th, 2025.
It's off.
Mr. Spinks, will you call the roll for us?
Hold on just one second, Mr. Chair. Testing. McGregor, can you come over here for just a second?
Yes. Test. You're test.
Testing. It's still not working. Test.
All right. All right, Mr. Chair. Chair Beliewicz.
Present.
Mr. Bridges.
Present.
Mr. Brumley.
Present.
Dr. Cartwright.
Here.
Mr. Hallbauer. Mr. Hampton.
Present.
Dr. Merchant. Ms. Pryor.
Here.
Dr. Taylor.
Present.
Quorum is present, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for everyone being here. Thank you for the board member or council members attending via Zoom, and thank you to the public for participating as well. Just a quick overview. My chair's report will be quite short. We're going to be honoring Chair Gloria Canseco at some point during the meeting. We're going to get into public comment in a moment. A couple other things that you'll hear about in the meeting. Robert and I went to Virginia. Was it last week before? Pretty recently, we'll be giving you an update on what we told Virginia and the questions that they had and the dialogue that we had with them regarding the new Texas psychology exam. If you'll see on your agenda, there is a under action item 5H. We do have on there executive session. I do not see a reason that is on there for in case we needed to go into executive session. Because these agendas are set so far in advance, we wanted to make sure that that was there, but I don't believe we're going to go into executive session unless somebody has a specific reason to do so. So just for the edification of the public, know that we are not expecting to have a break into executive session, and we should plow right through that. There are a ton of rules today, just an overview of rules. There are a ton of rules. Most of them have to do with legislative, for making our rules comport with the things that the legislature passed this past session. So there will be a lot of those. There's only a handful of real, I think, policy ones, but for the my expectation is that we'll probably take a lot of those in mass unless board members specifically want to pull any of them out. Council members want to pull any of them out to take them up individually. So with that, we will go ahead and get right into public comment. And most of y'all know the drill at this point. Please keep your remarks to 3 minutes. And we cannot take up any items. I cannot respond to any items that are not on the agenda. And before we do that, actually, I do have one other thing. This will dovetail us nicely into public comment. We did receive a written public comment, paraphrasing that public comment, talking about the complaint reporting process and the concern that it dissuades current license holders from making reports because it's not anonymous. I think it was a valid concern. It's not on the agenda, so we can't talk about that today. But if there's no objection, I do want to put that on a future agenda for us to discuss it, and also for the edification of the public to understand that public comment can result in agenda items, like in this case. So if there's no objection, we'll go ahead and put that on another agenda.
I concur.
All right. No objection? All right. Thank you very much. With that, we'll go ahead and get into public comment.
All right. As we have no visitors in person today, those of you attending virtually, if you would use the raised hand feature, if you wish to provide public comment, and we'll call you in order. As the chair said, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. First up, Dr. Lori Hollingsworth. If you'd like to provide your comment.
Good morning, Chair B. Lokomovich, council members, and staff. My name is Dr. Lori Hollingsworth, and I am a licensed professional counselor and supervisor. And today I'm serving in the role as the Texas Counseling Association, TCA liaison to BHEC. The Texas Counseling Association, TCA, would like to express our heartfelt appreciation to the council and its staff for their unwavering dedication and service as professionals and public servants. We recognize the countless hours of commitment that both professionals and public members invest in their roles on the council and the individual member boards. TCA deeply values the opportunity to offer public comments and engage in meaningful dialogues as stakeholders regarding the rules and regulations that shape our work as mental health professionals. We are thrilled to announce that the 69th Annual TCA Professional Growth Conference will take place from November the 19th through the 21st in Houston, Texas. TCA is honored to welcome a few board members of the Texas Licensed Professional Counselor LPC Board who will be participating in a panel presentation. Dr. Jody Elder will share the latest updates from the Texas State Board of Marriage and Family Therapists. Additionally, we are excited about the presentation by Daryl Spinks titled Looking Back and Moving Forward, a Regulatory and Legislative Update. As always, we eagerly anticipate Christina DeLuna's presence at the LPC board booth, where she will engage with our conference attendees. We extend our gratitude to the LPC and LMFT board members as well as the BHEC representatives for their ongoing engagement with TCA members and providing the latest legislative and BHEC updates. Thank you once again for your time, thoughtful consideration of all expressed concerns, and continued service to the citizens of the great state of Texas.
Thank you, Dr. Hollingsworth.
Dr. Allison Marks, if you'd like to provide your comment. Dr. Marks, we have you on screen, but and it looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. You might check your audio selection.
Sorry, my internet cut out. Didn't hear you call on me.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Allison Marks. I'm a licensed psychologist in Texas, and I'm here speaking solely as an individual and do not represent any organization. At a recent BHEC meeting, there was a discussion regarding how clients may be prescribed ketamine for mental health concerns and the potential roles of mental health providers in the administration or treatment process. I appreciate the board's effort to address this complex and evolving issue moving forward, and I would like to share some of my professional experiences to aid the board in having an informed discussion regarding real-world challenges clinicians are encountering around this issue. While the board correctly observed that ketamine prescriptions are issued by medical providers regulated by different licensing entities, it is important to note these providers are not always located within Texas and may not even be licensed in our state. Additionally, many of these providers do not necessarily require or recommend concurrent mental health treatment alongside ketamine administration. Although my observations are anecdotal, I have had 2 clients within the past year who independently pursued ketamine treatment, each of which raised concerns regarding safety and professional practice. Here's a summary of just some of the issues I encountered. Both were prescribed ketamine to be self-administered by 2 different out-of-state online medical providers. Neither was given specific dosing instructions. For example, they were prescribed a total amount with vague guidance such as take 2 milligrams the first week, 4 the second, and then increase as you see fit. No follow-up appointments were scheduled to discuss progress, concerns, or potential complications. They were simply instructed to request refills. Client communication with the prescribing providers was limited to messaging services or receptionists, and direct contact with the prescribing providers was not available for either the client nor myself, making it impossible for me to follow recent board regulations regarding collaborative communication. Neither client underwent comprehensive assessments prior to prescribing, and issues such as polysubstance use or currently utilized contraindicated substances were not evaluated or discussed. Clients received no psychoeducation regarding potential side effects, contraindications, or normative responses to ketamine. It's my understanding that ketamine is not a first-line treatment and should be considered mostly for treatment-resistant forms of mental health concerns. However, one of these clients had no issue obtaining a ketamine prescription despite never having tried any other form of psychotropic intervention and having only ever had 2 prior sessions of therapy. Obviously, I find these situations concerning from a clinical and ethical standpoint. The lack of medical oversight, minimal assessment, and absence of guidance on discontinuation or safety raise significant questions about liability and appropriate boundaries. As a psychologist, I was unable to advise the clients on safely stopping medication due to use of scope limitations. I also questioned whether providing psychoeducation on substance use contraindications would fall within my scope, or whether such information might be interpreted as unauthorized practice of medicine. Furthermore, if clients chose to cease treatment with me based on differing opinions about ketamine, they could be left without any appropriate medical or clinical oversight, a situation that appears to pose risk to client safety and clinical integrity. This is not an issue limited to ketamine. I've had similarly frustrating experiences with online long-distance providers providing Suboxone without medical care during discontinuation. I'm not sure what the role of BHEC might be in regard to these issues, but I believe it might be too big of an issue to rely on member boards to regulate. For instance, my experience directly with the recent psychology board changes. Thus, I would like to suggest BHEC make it a priority to try and provide regulation, clarification, and guidance in these situations for your licensees regarding scope of practice, obligations for cross-provider contact, and best practices for supporting and protecting our clients. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Real
Mark.
quick, for the record again, Dr. Allison, will you restate your name? And I had one other question for you real quick as a follow-up.
Sure, it's Dr. Allison Marks.
Perfect. And then what was the other drug that you mentioned in there? Your connection sort of broke
Suboxone.
up. Sorry, I was talking over you. One more time.
The other medication was Suboxone.
Suboxone. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Marks. And just as a point of interest information for the council, the Texas Medical Board has been directed by the legislature to undergo a study of this very topic and come out with guidelines and regulations. So we're watching that.
I almost wish that the word ketamine was on our agenda today so we could discuss this further. So I don't know if we're going to have a big discussion about it next time, but if there's no objection, I would like to put that on the agenda to discuss. Maybe if there's any sort of tracking we can do, or I'm not sure if it would rise to collaboration, but certainly communication or being kept abreast of whatever the medical board is doing.
No objection. Am I allowed to just say that was really helpful? That was a really helpful public comment. Okay.
I agree. And, the other one is the Spravato that you're seeing and Suboxone. And so she mentioned that. So those are all sort of treatments that we're seeing. Good, great public comment though.
Next up, Dr. Carol Grothhughes.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Belamowitz and council members. My name is Dr. Carol Grothhughes. I'm a licensed psychologist and chair of the BHEC Monitoring Committee of TPA, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and TPA today. First, I also want to express appreciation to the council and staff for the clear and obvious improved efficiency of all the member boards. Our fears of losing the efficiency of TSBEP have been unfounded. We were also concerned about the consolidation, about losing the autonomy of our individual professions. And we appreciate the efforts of the council to continue to respect the differences of our professions despite the significant overlap. It's an ongoing struggle to maintain these distinctions that are vital to our identities. So I appreciate all the efforts in that regard. I also want to express appreciation to the council and to TSBEP for clarifying the use and title of school psychologists in the proposed rules. The point of the change from licensed specialists in school psychology to school psychologists was to eliminate confusion and increase public understanding of a term more commonly used and nationally accepted. Using this title within the governing agencies helps maintain this clarification and avoids further muddying of the waters it just tried to clean up. It's especially important in Texas, as we are only one of 2 states who regulate school psychologists, as most are regulated by educational agencies. Finally, I've been asked to express concern about the difficulty in using the CE Broker platform. A number of our members have spent hours trying to use the program only to be frustrated with limited assistance from CE Broker. Instead of being basically told by CE Broker that, well, you can purchase membership and that will take care of the problem. It raises some questions, and it may be that it's just, the initial trial, new learning issues. I just wanted to bring this to your awareness to see if anybody else was having trouble and what we can do to improve it. TPA is certainly willing to work with you to try to help our members have a better experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grothhughes.
Excuse me. Next up, Rhonda Kimball. Oh, sorry. Hold on, Will. It's moving. All right. Rhonda Kimball, if you'd like to provide public comment.
I would. I'm Rhonda Kimball, no doctor preceding this name. I am just an LPC with my boots on the ground, working with people that are hurting every day. I want to thank Allison Marks. You're the kind of doctor I'd like to see on the BHEC board. I like hearing from you. I like that you understand what our scope of practice is and the exposure that we have with all this dysregulated medical influence in the mental health realm. I do want to agree with the CE Broker. There's some glitches. It's not easy. I'd much rather, if you call me for an audit, spend, the 5 minutes getting you my CE proof than spend 2 hours trying to figure out somebody else's system. You're wasting my time. It's not appreciated. And I think others will speak to that. I did listen to the seminar and everything. And I'm not completely computer illiterate. I don't want to say I'm a specialist, but it shouldn't be that much trouble. I also would like to speak to, and John, I'm glad you're heading the board because I knew you were on the side of not allowing PhD to be printed on the license. Again, that's the rule 882.28. I would like you to put that on your agenda and resurrect this issue of elitism. As we can see on our new BHEC board, I have a feeling it's looking much like the one that was dismantled. What was that, in 2020? Everybody's a doctor. And you refer to each other. I don't know if you saw the last meeting. Oh, Dr. So-and-so and Dr. Even the new lawyer that's on the board was referred to, how did you call her, Stephen? Doctor, the jurisprudence doctor. It's just getting silly. It's so silly. The only two people that aren't doctors, I think, is Christina and Brenda, the administrators. But it's getting so ridiculous. People don't speak up at these meetings because everybody that speaks is a doctor. I think it's meant to intimidate. Academics today, academia is under fire because there's an agenda being pushed, and I think it's being pushed on the BHEC board, and I don't like it. We used to have LPCs, master level LPCs on the board, people that actually do the work, that can help to inform the board that's making the rules. But you don't have those anymore, unless I'm mistaken. And there is a glass ceiling in the application process where only a select few get through. I don't even see pastors anymore. You used to have pastors on the board. And I'm going to tell you, Jesus himself in his own circle had one doctor. I mean, come on now. We don't need all these doctors. You don't know everything. We know this with Dr. Fauci, with COVID. Let's get some outside influence as we make these rules. Doctors, you're so smart. Everybody's so smart. Just because we're not a doctor doesn't mean that we are not intelligent. We have a different gifting as counselors. And look around in the mental health field, people are not getting better, they're getting worse. You need to pay attention. I would like it on the agenda again. I would like it repealed. Rule 882.28.
Please conclude your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Will Francis.
Good morning. My name is Will Francis. I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of Social Workers, Texas and Louisiana chapter, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Just want to echo the thanks that we've heard across the board for the hard work that BHEC is doing, and we know how seriously you all take both the rules and the professional obligations. Wanted to say thank you specifically to Sarah Fassholt, who will be at our virtual conference this week. She's coming to present, and we so appreciate when board staff take the time to really engage with licensed professionals. They're there answering questions, they're there giving updates, and it's such a valuable piece. So again, thank you all for being at our conferences and for really making sure you share. In regards to the agenda today, I just wanted to speak about two items, 5C and 5D. Just 5C as regards to the creation of an ad hoc committee looking at AI rules. We actually have been doing a lot of research in this. We very much thank BHEC leadership for accepting some resources that we drafted and created. We put together some BHEC guidelines, some escalation triggers, and a risk assessment, informed consent, complaint form. Very much understand that these are not necessarily going to be implemented, but we hope that they can help with the implementation process. We did a whole lot of research. We've really been exploring AI and what it means as it relates to these professions. And we would love to be part of any conversation going forward, should it relate to an ad hoc committee or provide support in these areas. And then for 5D, just wanted to share, we know how hard BHEC staff has been working to work with ASWB to bring a Spanish language exam for LMSWs into Texas. We drafted a letter, which we've shared with BHEC, really advocating for the use of a pilot program in AI to get that or other ways. And I would just like to encourage BHEC to maybe just give as much attention to this issue as it is giving to the psychology exam. We received $200,000 from the state to look into the creation of the Spanish language licensing exam. And so far, ASWB has really been waffling about that. And I think if BHEC was to put some energy and attention to that, the same way maybe they put towards the psychology exam, that could help, I think, show ASWB just how important and how serious this is. So we really hope that that's an issue that gets lifted up, not just from the Social Work Board, but across BHEC, and maybe start to trend that we see more Spanish language licensing exams in Texas. Beyond that, we support the rule changes, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Sandra Martin. You'd like to provide public comment.
Yes, and the first thing I need to know is, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
can, Ms. Martin. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, first I wanted to just briefly comment on the CE broker. I was going to do that anyway, but I found I am not DNA oriented to technology. My DNA just doesn't go there, but I found it easy to work with. So I would encourage them to keep trying at it. That's not what I originally came to say. This may or may not satisfy Rhonda. It's obvious to me and to us, by the way, I'm here for Christian Counselors of Texas. It's obvious to us that you guys and gals have come to serve in turbulent times. There is no question in our minds but that if you're on this council or any of our boards, you have been assigned and called to serve to that board, to that council at that time. Our assignment, however, and we have other words too, to speak, but our primary assignment is to undergird you all in prayer and words if they are given to us to speak. Probably the good thing is that none are given on this very day, except to speak a blessing over you in your service to the great state of Texas. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I see no other hands raised and there are no attendees by phone.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for the comment and the engagement. It's hugely helpful and valuable to the board, to the council.
Sorry,
They-
Mr. Chair, one person did just raise
Oh.
their hand.
All right, good. Let's hear it.
All right. Last chance. Anyone wishing to raise their hand, please do so. L. Lockhart, would you like to provide public comment?
Hi, how are you guys today?
Doing well.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
letting-
being here. You just got in.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you guys about your thoughts and I guess just your thoughts about what to do about something that I saw in my local magazine or weekly in Fort Worth. It's called the Fort Worth Weekly. I was taken back by an advertisement from a person who called themselves a coach and was also doing psychedelic. It's, I don't know what you would call it, coaching, I guess, which is really therapy. And I know that coaching has been an issue for a while now, but I just wanted to know if there's anything that can be done or if that's even on your radar. Thanks.
If you could reach out through our online contact form on our website, and you can attach a picture of the advertisement that you saw or a link to it, and our staff will be happy to look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we get those frequently and very welcome to send those our way.
Thank you.
Thank you. No more hands.
Okay, good. All right. Couple of housekeeping items. So we're going to go ahead and acknowledge our previous chair, Chair Canseco, who just got here, and then we'll get into the rest of the meeting. So it's really nice to take over when things aren't broken, and Chair Canseco did such an amazing job standing up a new state agency in Texas. It's not something that we do very often in Texas of creating another agency. Usually that we're getting rid of them or consolidating them. So I'm going to go ahead. We passed this last time. I'm going to go ahead and read it into the record again. So by resolution of appreciation, honoring Gloria Canseco by the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council, whereas Gloria Canseco has demonstrated a lifelong commitment to public service, guided by a strong sense of purpose and a deep concern for the well-being of others. And whereas throughout her career, she has served in both leading and supporting roles, stepping forward when called and standing behind others when needed, always in faithful service to the public good. And whereas as chair of the Behavioral Health Executive Council of Texas, she led and bore responsibility for a new state agency responsible for the oversight of licensed mental behavioral health professionals across Texas, ensuring it was built on a foundation of sound governance, accountability, and public trust. And whereas her service reflected not only capable leadership, but also deep commitment to the mission of expanding access to mental health care and improving the quality of services available to individuals and communities throughout the state. And whereas she has contributed meaningfully and beyond state government, offering leadership in nonprofit healthcare and supporting efforts that bring care and resources to underserved populations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Behavioral Health Executive Council of Texas does hereby express its deepest appreciation and respect to Gloria Canseco for her extraordinary contributions to the state of Texas and for her unwavering dedication to advancing access and quality in mental health care, and for her enduring service to in all forms to the people of Texas. So thank you very much. And then we also will be presenting on behalf of the state of Texas at the governor's proclamation, recognizing her in recognizing and appreciation for her years of meritorious service to the state of Texas as the first presiding officer of the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council from 2019 to 2025. So I would also turn it over to the rest of the board if there's anything you guys would like to add. Council, I should say. I'm going to get it down. It's the council. Anything?
Just thank you for your service and your leadership. And we just appreciate all that you've done for Texas and for licensees and the public. And just thank you for your service.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just take just a moment. Gloria, it has been an honor serving with you. I will tell you this, legacies are not made by people who talk about themselves or just speak to what they have accomplished. You stood up an agency, you took 4 agencies, some of which had some pretty serious endemic problems in them. And you now created an agency, you corrected all those problems, you have created an agency that is healthy, functioning, and meeting all the expectations of the elected officials in the Pink House and in the governor's office. That was done under your charge. There were times it was tough, it was sticky, we had a lot of difficult issues, there was a lot of mistrust. All of that was accomplished. So what I'm trying to say here is a lot of people can talk a big game, but you've actually got something to point to and show that you brought a big game. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and congratulate you on that. And I see that you got your family here with you. Is that your lesser half sitting next to you there? Okay. All right. We just really wanted to say thank you for your leadership in what was a very difficult time.
Sitting is probably not a good sign, but I'd only take a few minutes. I want to thank all of you for what you're doing for the state of Texas. I felt like I really wasn't always up to the task, and I'm so happy that I met your expectations. It really is, for me, a privilege and an honor to have served. I want to tell you that how much your staff, especially the folks sitting here, the leadership staff, were just, I wish I could have offered them all jobs. but I work with the homeless, so that's not always easy. You have an excellent, committed group. I saw them work. You know that they work late hours, that they go above and beyond. They were very patient with me because I chronically underestimate the Austin traffic, and today was no exception. I love what you're doing. I love the stand that we've taken. And as a state, I like that we're upholding our state, that stereotype for our state, that we are brash and we're brazen and we're bold because we are leaders. So I appreciate that very, very much. I wish this were off the record, but I'll say it. But the lovely people, especially the two on the left, and the one who could not attend today because of work demands, teased me mercilessly for about 6 years to tell me that there was a good reason I was in charge of the state psycho board and called me the state psycho because they assumed it was all psychology for 6 years running. And that was something that was fun living through. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to my family for tolerating me all these years.
Thank you, Chair Canseco.
Thank you all.
Now they want to take a picture.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you all.
All right. Let's we're going to go into, I'm sorry, is that an action item or informational item? We're going to take things out of order here. We're going to go ahead for the edification of the public and to keep things moving. We are going to hear from CE Broker next. Is that correct?
Yes,
Are they
sir.
ready to go?
Agenda topic 5B.
There we go. Thank you. So we're going to take that out of order, turn it over to CE Broker. How long should we expect on that?
We've got Mr. Jason Grubbs with CE Broker by Propellus here with us. Jason, is he at, can you move him to panelist? Hang on, Jason. We're going to elevate you to panelist status so that you'll show up on the video.
Appreciate that, Daryl.
Jason, how long do you think it'll take? 5-10 minutes?
Probably 15 at the most if we factor in some Q&A.
Okay.
Take it away.
And Jason, I have shared with them your presentation that you gave to me. I shared it with them last night or the day before.
Oh, perfect. Appreciate that. All right, let me just share my screen real quick and we will get to it. All righty. Can everyone hear me okay? And can everyone see the slide on the screen here?
Can.
Excellent. Chair Bilamovich, members of the council, staff, my name, as Daryl mentioned, is Jason Grubb. I'm your client success manager with CE Broker. Essentially what that means is I just serve as the primary point of contact for Daryl, Robert, and their staff. And I really appreciate you allowing me to join you this morning. I'm going to provide just a super high level kind of overview of CE Broker, make sure that everyone on the council and those that are viewing either in person or remotely have a general understanding of who we are. I'm going to outline some of our progress so far, including the communication efforts that we've put forth to date. I'll talk about some of the figures related to adoption of our platform in the past several months that it's been live and available to your population. Then I'll also kind of talk about some upcoming goals and kind of the next steps that we are currently working towards. And then, of course, any questions that you may have, feel free to chime in. I tend to get tired of hearing my own voice, so I welcome the interruption. Let's go ahead and get started here. So, like I said, just a super high level overview to kind of level set, make sure everyone's on the same page with who we are. I think it's important to understand that CE Broker is just one product line that's powered by a larger organization called Propellus. And Propellus really focuses on, just in general, modernizing how licensed professionals and their employers, regulators like yourselves, and those respective associations all kind of work together. We were conceived as a solution for Florida's Department of Health a little over 20 years ago, really to serve as that automated solution to track CE compliance for that umbrella agency's 33 healthcare related boards and million plus licensed professionals. Additionally, EverCheck, that's a credentials verification platform used primarily by hospital, health system HR departments to ensure that those healthcare workers and others are basically just kind of clear to work to be out on the floor at any given day. Then Emuware, that's a comprehensive employee and occupational health monitoring software solution. But going back to that founding a little over 20 years ago, since then we've expanded quite a bit. We now serve over 300 different agencies, just like BHEC. That equates to a little over 6 million licensed professionals nationwide. And uniquely to us and our platform, we also work with about 6,500 educational providers around the country to kind of collectively support professional development and CE compliance. A little more specific to you all, Texas actually marks the 12th state whose mental and behavioral health licensees we now serve. So, there's a good chance that your peers, colleagues in some of these other states pictured on the screen here are familiar with CE Broker and maybe even using us already. And I've said this before at a couple other board meetings, but although I now reside in Colorado, Texas is my home state. I grew up just north of Austin there in Gerald, Texas, and went to school at Texas State. So I am particularly excited to bring the CE Broker platform to the state of Texas. Then lastly here, as far as overviews go, I just want to reiterate that our platform is not just for you, the regulator. It's built kind of with all three primary, what we consider stakeholders in mind. So that's the, boards and councils, the licensee, and then also the educational providers. And so they all interact with our platform a little bit differently, kind of through their own unique portal to help complete their respective piece of the CE puzzle, as it were. So now that we kind of have some of those foundational pieces covered, I want to just kind of turn our attention to how we've been working with the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council specifically. So as I know you all are aware, occupational licensure, continuing education, those requirements can vary widely from state to state and from board to board. And so as such, CE Broker, is not a one size fits all solution. It really can't be. And so by necessity, we configure the solution to your own unique regulations. And kind of thanks to our experience and efficiency in this space, and thanks to your very knowledgeable and responsive staff, we were able to go from contract signature in January to a delivered platform available to all of your licensees in just 8 months. And I won't detail every milestone here, but what I want to make sure does not get lost is the numerous meetings and verification conversations that we had with your staff so that we fully understand your laws and rules so that our system is reflective of such. It certainly is not something that would come to fruition without the folks on your side. It's truly a team effort. And you'll see here that last point that your staff announced to the licensed population on August 13th. And that certainly has not been the only piece of communication that has gone out. I want to take a second to dive into some of the other communication efforts to date. Again, I know you all know this very, very well, but informing your licensed professionals of new systems or new processes or requirements, it can sometimes be a real challenge, especially with a large population like you have of 85,000 plus folks there across the state of Texas. We are very thankful to your staff's thoughtful, proactive approach in really laying out a multifaceted and recurring messaging campaign to make sure that licensees are fully abreast of what this new platform means and how it's going to help them with reducing confusion and maintaining compliance with their CE requirements. So you'll see here that we had 2 pre-launch notices that went out ahead of the system even being available. It also encouraged them to register for and participate in one of several co-hosted webinars. Additionally, you'll see here, like I mentioned previously, the announcement that went out in August 13th, so just about 2 months ago now. Then We're including messaging in the 75-day renewal notices that licensees receive. That started, that commenced in August, which correlated with that August 13th announcement as well. Then the webinars that I mentioned, and I'll spend a little bit more time on this section here specifically. We held the first of 3 of those webinars on August 27th, and participation was really strong across all of the BHEC professions. We had about 1,000 folks participate on the webinar itself. Then we had another 2,000 folks participate in real time via the live stream that was pushed to YouTube. Then there is a recording of that live stream that's available on the board's website as well, so folks can go and revisit that information if they like. Additionally, we have 2 more webinars coming up as well. One is slated for October 29th, and another is slated for December 10th. So I understand from the public comment, there was some feedback from the TPA and others that expressed some confusion with the platform and may have some additional questions. So I would encourage those organizations and their members, or anyone else who's listening, to register for one of those upcoming webinars, either on the 29th or the 10th, to make sure that you are able to view a thorough demo of the platform and answer any questions that you may have that have gone unanswered. And kind of lastly on that point, those are the webinars that are currently scheduled, the ones that are slated. We are happy to offer additional webinars to those respective state or regional associations or others to help just further reduce confusion and answer questions. Then lastly here, that final bullet point, my participation at this BHEC meeting and then the other board meetings that took place earlier this month and last, obviously not only for your benefit as council members, as board members, but also benefit for the listening and attending public as well. So just a couple points here related to the effectiveness of the communication so far and kind of what that has meant from an engagement standpoint. So since that initial announcement went out on August 13th, engagement has increased quite steadily from day to day. So for all of BHEC, nearly 18% of the licensed population so far have already created their CE broker account in just the first 2 months. So you'll see that figure there. About 15,000 or so folks are already on the platform and using it, which I would say is somewhat outpacing the kind of traditional adoption rate that we see when new clients launch with our platform in those early months. And I think that's directly attributable to a lot of the forethought and kind of, like I said before, just the long runway of communication to educate the population of the new platform and when it'll be available and what licensees can do with it, et cetera. So just a couple points kind of outlining what's next on the horizon, kind of what we're working towards in the next few months. So in addition to the webinars, the future webinars that I mentioned, and ongoing communications that I previously referenced, the next phase of the rollout really involves integrating CE Broker with your licensing system, and that's done via a back-end connection. It's an API connection, which is really just essentially it's a language that your system and our system can use to talk to one another. So that'll be used to verify CE compliance in real time when licensees are actually renewing, as opposed to relying on a post-renewal kind of auditing system. So starting with those licensees renewing in January, their notices, which go out next month, I believe, and the renewals thereafter, those reminders will indicate that usage of the CE Broker platform is mandatory, and they actually won't be able to renew unless all of their CE is uploaded into the CE Broker system. So that's coming. And, beyond that, like I said previously, we are committed to providing additional webinars and other resources, step-by-step guides, whatever the case may be, to ensure that the licensed population, that your educational providers have a solid understanding of how to use our platform. Additionally, we do offer dedicated support for all of those various stakeholders. And the last slide I have here just leans into the support center in a little bit more depth. So we take a lot of pride in offering a dedicated in-house team of customer support specialists. These individuals are, Propellus employees. They're based here in the United States. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. Additionally, we have a robust resource library that has step-by-step guides, tutorial videos, and more in case folks need some assistance outside of those support center hours. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you all might have.
I have a question. This is John Belamowitz. So we heard some public comment today about some people having some issues with it, and the suggestion was made that pay this, either subscribe or pay the premium subscription to fix it. I guess I just want to put out there, when we signed up for this, the concern was in terms of adding additional cost to licensees. And so I understand there's a free one. I'm sensitive to when we hear comments like that of saying that you just need to pay some money to fix it. So is there, I haven't tried it out, so I don't know what the user experience is like. Is there can you speak to how that might be happening, or why that might be happening, or why somebody may have that impression?
Certainly, and I appreciate that comment. It's a question that we get, somewhat frequently. I will reiterate that CE Broker is used by about 6 million licensed professionals nationwide. Overall, I would say that those that opt for an upgraded premium subscription is about 15% of the population. So the vast majority of licensees, they can do everything that their respective licensing agency requires of them with just the free basic account. And we're adding additional features to that account level all the time. So with the basic account, licensees can upload their continuing education. They can find courses that meet their respective board requirements. They can respond to audits if the board were to ever launch an audit, and they can view their unique educational requirements specific to their board, their profession, and their unique circumstances, whatever those might be. If licensees want some additional, convenience features, like a dynamic transcript that really adjusts the hours based on how much they've reported and how much is still outstanding, if they want some additional reporting tools, like for multi-license reporting, et cetera, things like that, we do have those upgraded premium offerings for licensees that just want a system to do a little more of the thinking for them. But like I said before, the vast majority of users on our platform just have the basic free account.
And that's still more than enough to comply with everything that we need them to do on the free account.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, Mr. Chair, but I'll speak to the, I think a little bit of the confusion for the premium account. When I set up my account, it was very simple, very easy to use, very good. The product itself is great, but it does have a freemium push. So when you go to the landing page, there is not an invitation, it's like a strong invitation to buy the upgraded version. So I don't know if we need to do a really, really strong job of making sure the public knows, or our licensees know, that you do not need to purchase this. Because I think it's just very suggestive in that way, which nothing against CE Broker or their model. I totally understand the model. But that was my experience, was that I think it was 2 or 3 times where I had to click through and say, no, the free one. So just.
Thank you for putting that out there.
Also, could you repeat the date and time of the 2 webinars you said that are coming up, and how our licensees can access those webinars?
Oh, absolutely. The next one coming up is slated for October 29th, and the one after that is December 10th. And I know that staff has sent a couple of emails related to with the registration links for those upcoming webinars. And I know that the registration links for those webinars are available on the continuing education page of the BHEC website. I will say that the October webinar, the one that's in just a couple weeks, we have about 2,500 folks registered for it already. And there is a seat limitation with the webinar license. So the first 1,000 people that get in will be able to actually participate in the webinar, answer questions, and engage with the panelists. Those who join after the 1,000 person seat limit is reached will be they'll be referred to the live stream via YouTube. I haven't looked at the registration numbers for the December event as well, but I anticipate it to be similarly well attended. And so for those that do want to join, I would encourage you to get on there early if you want to be one of the folks that can engage and answer questions, etc.
And where and when is that posted for them to register?
I believe it's on, staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's posted on the continuing education page of the BHEC website.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have it on our CE. If you just click on the renewals/CE, the main link on in the left-hand menu, it will take you to the CE webpage, and you just click on then the reporting CE hours, and there you will see the breakdown of the past webinar recordings, the Q&A for that, the transcript from that, and then it also has registration links for the 29th and the 10th webinars. I would strongly encourage the public to review the Q&A and the transcript. If you don't want to watch the full video, you can read those documents, read those questions, because what we see is a lot of the same questions asked again and again, and probably your colleagues have already asked whatever you're thinking. So it really may help kind of demystify or answer a lot of questions if you'll just take the time to read those Q&As.
Okay, one more time for the edification of our licensees. BHEC homepage.
Scroll up, Robert.
Yep.
Oh, you're doing it there. Okay, cool.
Showing you right here on the screen.
Okay.
Again, back to the homepage. We have these big blue menu buttons on the left. For those who haven't seen our new webpage, the big blue menu buttons, focus on them. They'll get you where you need to go. Renewals CE, and then that'll bring you to the main renewals page. You can get to our online licensing system to renew your license, or if you scroll down, there's a button here for reporting your continuing education. You click on that button, it'll bring you to the main CE broker page that talks about how to activate your CE broker account, as well as if you scroll down, there's learn more. So there's the webinar transcripts and the registration for the webinars.
Thank you for putting that on the record. We want this to be successful for everybody. So I understand there's growing pains. So
yes, this is one of the reasons why we created such a long runway into this. So for folks renewing in January, you will have had 6 months. For everybody else, you're going to have more than 6 months. So please take the time to educate yourself on all of this, because it will certainly make the transition much easier.
Any further questions? Mr. Grubb, thank you for being here today, and thank you for answering our questions and presenting.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
I believe that takes us into agenda topic number 4, Mr. Chair.
All right. So I will turn that over to you, Mr. Spinks, and to whoever you may delegate on informational items.
Yeah, I will be brief here. I am not going to touch on anything in that except for I want to highlight and emphasize the enforcement data that you see. I've given you all a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of presentations to look at. As far as our performance measures go, we're doing very, very good on the licensing side. It's 29 days on average to process an application for licensure. That's not even counting the applications we do for like supervisor status, license verifications. That's just getting you folks licensed. It's on average taking 29 days. In some cases, it's 24 hours. We issued over 12,000 new licenses last year, renewed over 36,000. One of the things that I tried to emphasize in this is because the one area where we are seeing, I don't want to say problems or concern, it is a concern, is that on the enforcement side, just the sheer volume of complaints that we are receiving. We plan and estimate to receive about 600 complaints each fiscal year. Past fiscal year, we received over 800. So that's a 33% increase over what we had planned on receiving. Now, we actually stepped it up, and thanks to some revisions and pulling some levers, pushing some buttons on the enforcement side, we were actually able to eke more efficiency out of the enforcement process, and we resolved over 600 complaints. So the problem is we have now kind of pushed all the buttons and pulled all the levers that we know to do to achieve, efficiency on the enforcement side. But complaints continue to go up. We have hired one additional staff attorney to help with that. I don't think one's going to be enough. We were given money to hire two. We're trying to hire a second. It is an incredibly difficult job market right now trying to hire attorneys for state agencies. That's one of the reasons the Ledge had given a 6% across the board pay raise bump to all attorneys in the state of Texas, is because we're hemorrhaging lawyers. It is just really, really difficult to hire somebody right now. We've probably got one little kind of trick up our sleeve on that we're going to have to try. I think we're probably going to have to look at bringing in interns from a law school. And instead of actually, if we can't hire an attorney, we may have to supplement with interns working under our existing attorneys. But we're still in the process of kind of mapping that out. My point being
for
is,
the members of the public out there who know a good attorney, we're hiring.
yeah, we're hiring. So, we've gotten over 800 complaints. I do not know why the complaints are going up to the degree they are. I don't know. If you guys, that's one of the reasons we pushed all this data out there for you and for the public to see, is if anybody's got any ideas on what's driving these trends, I'm certainly all ears, because I can't make heads or tails as to why it's going up, other than the fact that our entire licensee population as a whole continues to grow. These fields are very healthy fields. They are growing at a very, very good clip. About 5,000 to 6,000 licensees per year we're adding to the rolls. So almost an entire MFT program every year gets added to the licensing rolls. We're disciplining at about 17%. That's about the disciplinary rate. 17% of the complaints that come in end up getting, or that are resolved, end up getting a disciplinary action. It takes us on average of 294 days to resolve a complaint. That's a very, that's a good figure. And then almost half of the complaints are resolved within 6 months. That's a very good figure compared to what it used to be a long time ago. So right now, currently we have, Alfonso, what do we have? Roughly 780 something complaints pending right now?
As of yesterday morning, 799.
799?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, y'all see what we're facing. The reason that's I kind of wanted to, I've pushed a lot of this information on you, is I need you to keep that in your mind whenever we hit some of these rule proposals, when we get later on, the rule change and the informal settlement conferences. That arose out of what are we going to do to try to streamline this process even further and squeeze as much efficiency out of it as we can. We're all ears, guys. If y'all have got any ideas on what to do here, we certainly don't have a monopoly on solutions, but this is going to be a difficult problem, and it's one that we need to stay on top of it as best we can, or it's going to be a problem. And I don't know what's driving it. That's the bad part. That's really the frustrating part.
Well, I will say in terms of staff, it sounds like in terms of licensing staff, getting licenses out the door, that's a job well done. And so from the council level, I think staff needs to hear we see that. And so great job. And then for the processing of complaints, keep going. And we're going to keep supporting you and figuring out how to do a better job with less. So let's keep going.
Yeah. We intend to.
I think, like you said, fastest growing state in the nation. It's just going to, by the sheer numbers, it's just a problem we're going to see more and more of.
At our last meeting, you had mentioned that y'all had entered into some sort of research contract with a university to kind of, will they be looking at any of this? Like, will their research be looking at any of the trends, or maybe what's driving? Will they be looking at any of that?
Yeah, yes and no. They are going to be looking at the resolution trends, and so they'll be looking to see, are there things about cases that are more likely to have a violation, or that we're more likely to find a violation?
Okay. So
Yeah.
not really. Like,
Not
they're
really
not
the
looking
underlying
at-
causes of
Okay,
the
yeah.
complaints.
Thank you.
Daryl, is there any pattern across the boards? Is one board's going up more than the others percentage wise?
I haven't looked to see. We'd look to see, is it proportional, the number of complaints for each board, or is LPC dominating this thing.
The LPC board is larger than the other boards, and they consistently have more complaints.
Okay.
The smallest being an MFT board.
Okay.
And that's pretty proportionate with our licensee population, though, is it not?
Yeah, MFT is going to be your smallest population, LPC the largest population.
Yeah.
But
Is there any
whether the number of complaints to the total LPC population, if that ratio is the same for all the boards, I don't know.
Is there any type of infraction you're seeing more of, like across the board?
I mean, you can look at that data: standard of care, sexual misconduct, unprofessional conduct. Those are the big three. Standard of care could be, I mean, misdiagnosis, using the wrong evaluation or assessment. That's kind of what we're talking about there. Unprofessional conduct. I think it's probably safe to say, I mean, most of the complaints end up getting dismissed. Most complaints are unfounded.
And why is that? Because that's something I think as a member, we see this, and I've been in so many meetings where I'm like, I'd like to do something here, maybe, but like, I don't know if there's anything to, like, no one's proved anything, like, and there's nothing to prove here. And so we've looked, there's those cases, and then there's the other ones of like, somebody's upset and there's not a rule infraction, or sometimes something may have gone wrong, but it doesn't actually violate any rule, because the only thing we can do is sanction their license. And that's a problem not for us. That's a problem for a court or for some other venue. It's just not us. So can you speak to, for the edification of everybody here and in the public, what doesn't see the light of day and why?
Well, I'm not really sure what you're asking.
I'm asking in terms of, that seems like a lot gets thrown out. If I was coming into this cold, that seems like a whole lot of, the worst thing we could say is like, you're just not looking hard enough.
Well, yeah.
I know that's not true, because I've talked to enforcement staff.
A lot of what we see is people disagreeing with what the provider says. They simply do not agree with the opinions, the diagnoses, the treatment approach, whatever the treatment plan or course of treatment is, they don't agree with it. And so they're arguing, or they want to fight over that. Or sometimes it's whatever the outcome is, the diagnosis given. The problem with that is you can have legitimate disagreements amongst professionals and still be within a kind of a reasonable zone of disagreement. So you could have two professionals that don't necessarily agree on the same course of treatment or the same diagnosis or outcome, and yet they don't violate the rules. One may be right, one may be wrong, but they still don't violate the rules. And so that's where it's hard for people outside the profession to kind of see that, well, if one's right and one's wrong, how could that not be a rule violation? Well, there was enough evidence that could lead you safely to either conclusion. It's just one was a little more right than the other.
Right.
That's kind of what it boils down to. So we see a lot of that on the forensic side. It's just people that are upset with the outcome. And so, they lash out, for lack of better words.
That's when I see people treat us as essentially an appellate court.
Yes.
Which we're not.
Yes.
And we can't. And we're not going to go overturn a judge or something like it's just, we're the regulatory agency.
Yeah.
We can only sanction a license.
And the unprofessional conduct category, that's more like, they said something untoward, or it's not a rule violation. It's just, you just were not acting in a professional manner. That just boils down to, that's laced with subjectivity. And so whether or not, that rises to the level of violation, that's just going to be, you're going to have to carry a very heavy burden if you're going to prove an unprofessional conduct violation.
And in that case, the burden is we have to be able to go to the State Office of Administrative Hearings and actually prove, and it's a court.
Correct.
To prove in court that X was said, whatever was said, and that it was unprofessional. And maybe it is unprofessional, but can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it actually was said?
Well, sometimes that, and then oftentimes it was said, but maybe it was something you needed to hear, or maybe it was. You were going to have an expert come in and opine that, hey, that was so horrific or so bad that it just falls beneath the level of acceptable conduct by a professional, and that's just very rare. You don't see that kind of untoward behavior by our providers. I always tell licensees, I'm like, on the whole, y'all are a very well-behaved bunch. We just don't have those kinds of problems out of this licensee population. The standard of care issue is just the sexual misconduct. A lot of times it's, can you actually prove something happened there? That's usually a, can you prove it happened? Sometimes it's a, there are lies flying all over the room. And that's usually when we bring a bunch of you in, we're trying to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. The standard of care one, in my opinion, is probably some of the harder stuff to prove, because you're trying to figure out if this aspect of care that was delivered, does it fall below the standard of care? And there can be a lot of variation on what is acceptable and what is not amongst the profession there. So we're a little more squishy than medicine in term, it's not as a hard science.
When you say we, are you talking about
the professions?
Okay.
Yeah. The practice of it's not as a hard profession, chemistry, medicine, that type of things. It's more of a soft science. And so it's a little more difficult to prove.
Yeah. And I will just say that the ethos I would say from the boards and certainly from this council is go when anything can be determined that there's a violation, we're going. We're going for it. But to the licensees out there, I think it's also important that if you haven't done anything wrong, you don't have anything to fear, because we're going to figure out.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the bottom of that.
I always tell people, statistically, look at the stats. The vast majority of complaints are dismissed. Some are dismissed without folks even knowing that they were filed. And there's a whole rationale behind that, because they're non-jurisdictional, and we simply do not want to take up your time responding to a non-jurisdictional complaint. But it's the fear or the myth that floats around out there that we are out there patrolling the grounds, trying to hunt down and take your license. It is not supported by the data. Although if you do something stupid, we're coming. I mean, you can look in the packet today. There's a lot of folks in there that, did some less than professional or less than wise things.
You're being kind.
And now they're in the public record because of it. So.
And if I could add to, Mr. Chair, to your question of, are we just dismissing everything from a historical and statistical perspective? From the psychology board, and also when the boards were under HHSC, they had about a 10% disciplinary rate, and right now BHEC is around a 17% disciplinary rate. So the agency BHEC is actually disciplining more than it was previously. So to answer your question, we're just, if somebody asks, oh, you're just dismissing everything. No, we're actually taking more action now.
Almost double
than what we were
almost double the enforcement rate of what you're describing previously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any other question, or back to y'all?
The only other thing under agenda topic 4 that I would point out is the report on House Bill 3130. I'm just letting y'all know that's been fully implemented now. That was something that was passed in the 88th legislature. It took us this long to get that thing fully implemented because there were some database changes we had to make. So that just, for the public's edification, a bill may seem very simple and straightforward, and it may be a good idea, but it can be very difficult to actually implement when you have to start tinkering with a shared regulatory database, which is what we use. We share it with multiple agencies. So, but it's fully implemented now. And we did have to pay out of pocket. There wasn't a quote unquote unfunded mandate attached to that. So we took a little bit of a hit there.
Any questions from the council?
Okay. Then the next item is that's it on number 4. Unless,
Okay.
Unless
all right, moving into action items. We have a couple of disciplinary recommendations from member boards to go through. How do we want to do this? Does staff want to lay these out one by one? We are also going to give the licensee 10 minutes to respond if they are present. They will use the raise hand function, and we can hear from them.
Yeah, I think the first one in the meeting materials is Isaac Karen, and that was a default order from the State Office of Administrative Hearings. Dr. Merchant, you were at the IC, so would recommend a recusal. But for this particular matter, this marriage and family therapist had their license revoked in California, and so we for, I believe it was sexual misconduct, and so we have taken action, reciprocal discipline, to revoke that. They didn't appear at the SOA hearing, And so we've proceeded on a default basis to revoke their license. There is a proposed order that was reviewed by the Marriage and Family Board and approved for the revocation of the license. And so that's before you. If we can look and see if this licensee is in the audience and give them an opportunity to speak, they were given notice of the meeting.
All right, so we'll use the raise hand function. Isaac Carrion is here. Use the raise hand function. I can't see. Can y'all?
Yeah.
No hand raised.
No hand raised.
Okay.
Any council or representative for Mr. Carrion? Seeing, hearing none.
Okay. All right. So, council, you have the proposed final decision and order. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, are there any motions?
I make a motion to accept the revocation as indicated.
Okay. Been moved
Second.
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
The next case in the meeting materials is for Troy French. This was an LPC that Dr. Taylor, you served on the ISC, so you should recuse on this one.
I will recuse.
This LPC had a client move in with them and live with them. They after suffering a traumatic brain injury, and there were concerns about his competency to practice, as well as the dual relationship with having, living with a client. This went to SOA. It did not appear at SOA. Then it was so a default order was issued, remanded back to the agency. The LPC board reviewed this, and they approved a proposed order to revoke this LPC's license. And so it's presented to the council for ratification. If Troy French is in attendance, he was provided notice of this. We should allow him an opportunity to speak.
All right. Is Troy French or his attorney in the audience? Please use the raise hand feature. Anything? Seeing none. Is there any discussion?
Chair, I make a motion to accept the order as written.
Okay, it's been moved to
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the revocation order. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, the last case for your consideration is Crystal Rodriguez. This is a licensed master social worker. Mr. Brumley, you were in the ISC, so you should recuse from this case. Ms. Rodriguez was engaged in inappropriate client communications with possibly and some possible sexual impropriety in those communications, and then she failed to cooperate with the investigation. This was went to SOA. She failed to appeal. Staff sought a default order, and it was granted. It was remanded back to the agency. The social work board reviewed the proposed order in your meeting materials to revoke this person's license. They approved it, and so it's before the council for your consideration. Again, if Ms. Rodriguez is in the audience, we should allow her an opportunity to speak.
All right, this would be the time for Ms. Rodriguez or her attorney to use the raise hand feature to address the board if they would choose to, if they are present. Seeing none? Seeing none. Okay. Any discussion from the board? Any motions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion.
It's been moved. Is it moved to
second.
revoke?
Yes.
As order. Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. So, thank you very much. Motion carries. All right. We already did 5B. That would be the CE broker update. Moving to 5C, establish criteria for evaluating AI systems seeking participation in the regulatory sandbox. Agency staff will begin rulemaking to develop criteria under section 5 53052 of the Business and Commerce Code. And we're going to discuss, we may discuss whether to establish an ad hoc committee to assist with that rule development process.
So, as I indicated in kind of the introductory email where I convey the meeting materials to y'all, I may be a bit premature in putting this on the agenda at this moment. I've reached out to DIR, who is going to shepherd this AI sandbox program into existence, and it's really it's kind of really their vehicle. The legislature has told them to set it up. They have not done it yet. They have not got it set up. They don't even have the Texas Artificial Intelligence Council set up yet. So we may want to wait. I do not plan on developing any rules until I see what DIR sets up as a framework for their sandbox program, because just in looking at some of their materials, I want to make sure that whatever we build will actually work within their framework. So I'm going to hold off on doing that. You guys can go ahead and do an ad hoc committee if you want to set one up now, because let's say they get it up and running between now and February, your next council meeting, and we have to do something, then, we could move on it. But I don't see that happening. I don't see them getting everything up and running between now and February. But if you want to, you can go ahead and do it. But I'm just telling you guys and the public, I'm not planning on actually writing any draft rules, but, until DIR has that sandbox program established and the criteria for participating in it.
So what you're asking is who of the council is interested in serving to, when we get to that point, being called on to help mold that clay to draft those rules.
Correct. But I don't think we actually need to do anything right now.
Okay.
I will say Mr. Francis and NASW did a really good job. Will, kudos to Devin for doing all that, but they did a really good job and have kind of given us a really good leaping off point. So that'll make our lives a lot easier, I think, what they've put together.
You can change your plan if you have a plan, so I don't mind getting a plan together to do this. So, anybody interested in serving?
I'd be glad to serve on that committee.
And I would too, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Brumley and Dr. Cartwright?
How many people do you want on the committee?
You would not want to
4?
have more than 4. 4 would be the maximum, because you would not be, then it becomes a quorum. You interested? No. Okay. Hang on, your mic's off.
Oh, sorry.
So for the record, Dr. Merchant says she does not want to be on this committee.
I do not, but if y'all need a tribute or something, I will do it.
Okay.
But like,
Thank you for
if there's a minimum and you need someone, I will do it. But it's
No,
not.
a committee could be 1. It cannot be more than 4. I'll probably inject myself into that conversation. So that makes 3. Any objections there? All right. Without objection, you have your committee.
Understood. Got it.
All right. Update on implementation efforts for SB1 budget rider regarding the development of a Spanish language exam for social work. We have some exchanges that were in your board packet. I'll hand it over to you.
The ball is going to be back in ours and ASWB's court. We need to get with them and see, we kind of see what their response is to NASW's letter and kind of see what their time frame is for the study that they're going to conduct. Look, I mean, just in a very practical sense, it's their exam. So anything we do, we would have to have their permission and cooperation in order to do it. So we've got a meeting set up with them. I don't know. It's sometime next month, I believe.
It's the first week in November. We're having that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the 4th, 5th, somewhere.
Somewhere's in there. Yeah. So we'll meet with ASWB then to try to figure out what the next step is.
So for the edification of the public watching, so there is $200,000 allocated by the legislature for this effort. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if we don't use, and it is there for us to essentially hire out this to whichever entity, only really one logical entity, correct?
Correct. They gave us $200,000 to develop and deploy a Spanish language version of the social work exam. There's only one such exam, and it's owned by ASWB. And so what we are trying to do is figure out how to actually use that, because we cannot use that money for anything else.
That's right.
It is for that purpose and that purpose alone.
And if not spent, it lapses and goes back
Correct.
to the general
It will
fund.
go back. And if we cannot use it, we need to be able to explain to the Appropriations and Finance Committee, Governor's Office, Speaker, and Lieutenant Governor's Office why we were not able to carry forward with their legislative directive to develop that. So
currently that's a national exam, correct?
correct.
And then what would be created would be a Texas-based?
Well, we don't really know. As you can see in the options that we set out in our original letter to ASWB, the best and highest use of the money would have been for ASWB to simply develop a Spanish language version of that exam that could then be used across the country. They did, and then I think the second best was, okay, well, will y'all give us kind of a version of, create a Spanish language version of your second, or give us one of your old, what do you call it? A form. It's one of the old versions of the test forms, and we'll have it translated into Spanish. Then Robert had also come up with the idea, what if we approach like Pearson and just say, we'll have your exam up there and we'll do an AI translation of Spanish on the side of it. None of those ideas seem to really stick, although I really liked the idea of the AI translation because it doesn't affect the validity of their existing exam. It's just a tool to help you achieve greater passage rate for native Spanish speakers.
Only if it gets it right.
Only if it gets it right. But you've got to kind of rely on the fact that anybody taking this exam is already going to be bilingual. And so it's just a tool to help them reconcile any kind of language barrier issues there. It's not going to be a guaranteed translation, but we only got $200,000 to work with. We know from the psych exam, it takes like $1 million at least to build one of these things from the ground up. And so we're really trying to figure out how do we make $200,000 go the furthest. And so that was just one of the options we'd come up with.
I heard all the psychologists in my head when you said just do an AI translation of it, talking about it's not valid. You haven't
yes.
tested the validity of the translation.
I was waiting on Dr. Cartwright and Dr. Taylor to throw something at me.
Hit your mic.
Oh, that was pretty much the tenet of the ASWB meeting as well. There's no research.
Yeah.
Mr. Spinks makes a great point though, because it doesn't have to be necessarily, because the person taking the test is already bilingual. Now, to the level of bilingualness, in terms of maybe you're not a native English speaker, I'm trying to think about like things that have helped me. Like I took Latin and Spanish in high school, and I can think about how translations side by side help you understand it better. And there's certainly nuance to language. Like if you did a verbatim Latin translation, and there's some things in Spanish that are expressed just more colorfully than you can even do it in English. And so you would lose a lot of that color, but could you understand better what was there in English on the valid test? Maybe, probably, I'd say so. And that if that's the goal, I think we don't have to aim. I don't think we need to be aiming at perfection in terms of a standalone Spanish exam that stands 100%, the same test that you'd put it through the current English exam.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and one of the current accommodations is you can use a translation dictionary, but it's when you put those phrases together with AI that it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So we are continuing to work with ASWB. And we'll continue to work with both them and NASW in trying to achieve this. But we're not there yet. And as you guys can see from the letters, we've got quite a bit of a gap to try to close if we're going to make it there. So
do you need action on that right now?
I do not. It's just more of a reporting and to discuss it with you. If you want to take action, you feel like you need to do something, you can, but I don't know what you can do at this point.
All right. Moving on to, there's nothing else there. Moving on to review and consideration of the revised travel policy. I'll let you lay that out before I say one thing, is that the goal is to minimize expenses and maximize efficiency at the same time for agency, staff, board members, council members, to be able to do our job where we need to be in an efficient and documentable and accountable way, because it is not our money.
Right. It's important for folks to understand why we're doing particularly this body, why we're doing a revised travel policy. Enterprise was the state rental car company that had the state contract. They did not renew that contract. Enterprise did not. They chose not to. And so the state was then forced to secure a contract with Hertz. Now, the problem is Enterprise had more rental locations than Hertz. I know like Chair Brumley is not close to a Hertz. I am not close to a Hertz for all the traveling I have to do. And it becomes very problematic and difficult. Our spouses didn't sign up to run us to and from the rental car location and deal with, by the time you pay for taxis, parking, and all the stuff back and forth to the rental car location, it kind of eats at whatever cost savings you got from the state contract. And quite frankly, I know how difficult it is on all of you because it takes you out of making money. And that's how you make your living at the office if you're having to go chase down a rental car company. So one of the things we thought was we will develop a policy that recognizes the inherent kind of the value of your time, and we account for that. And in short, what we're saying is the default position is yes, you still go get a rental car, but if it's going to be an unreasonable burden on you or it's not as cost effective, you can ask for a waiver, which will be granted, and that will allow you to seek mileage reimbursement for the use of your personal vehicle. And honestly, given the sheer distance that a lot of you live from a Hertz location, that's going to be something that I expect to see more often than not. It's just, it is what it is. We are trying to recognize that it's more than just about the cost savings of the rental car. There's a lot of unquantifiable costs that go along with board service, and trying to figure out how to get to and from and deal with all that, all the rigmarole that goes with that. We need to be taking that into account when we're taxing you guys with.
I think the point is when you look at the old policy, versus it was the letter of the policy forced me to take my car, drive to a rental car company, get rental car, drive here, drive back, swap cars again. Like, it makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And once you start factoring in even mileage to and from the rental car place, it's the wrong direction of the direction I need to go anyways. It's stupid. And it's a poor allocation of state resources. It's and candidly, it's close to break even. And so like the policy, this is a use your head policy.
Yeah. We're saving a nickel at your expense. And when I say I'm talking about the state of Texas is saving a nickel at the expense of you not being in the office. You still got to make a living, because if you're broke, that doesn't help us because you quit the board. And nobody wants to serve on a board that ends up just costing them money. You don't get paid anyway. So, we've got to take all that into account, or nobody's going to want to do this. So
because y'all aren't paying me a salary.
Right. No, we are not. No plans to start.
Nope. All right. So
I will say, Mr. Chair, this is untested waters. I'm expecting the SAO probably to push back a little bit on our first audit, but I'm just going to have to kind of have a come to Jesus meeting with them and go, you guys have got to acknowledge that there are other relevant circumstances that need to be taken into account other than just the nickel or two we're saving on using state rental cars.
Right.
So that's the objective or the goal behind this.
So without objection, we can, if there's any further discussion or questions, I'm going to approve that without objection. Hearing none. It's approved. All right.
And the next items are 2 guidelines. We'll get into each one of them, but one thing this is just kind of an overarching thing I want y'all to keep in mind when you're considering guidelines. We've now got like 9 guidelines posted on our website. There's some in BHEC and then some in each of the member boards. I just want to kind of caution y'all against adopting guidelines anytime we hit a rough spot, or, whatever the case may be. Just be very cautious about adopting guidelines, because number one, you have to maintain them. You got to make sure that they are up to date. You got to watch them, and you've also got to be careful about how they are used. So, for example, getting into the new and emerging technologies, that was a set of guidelines that was recommended by, I believe, the Standardization Committee. Staff had brought a kind of a standardized new and emerging technology and practices rule. The committee did not like that, but instead said, hey, why don't we do some guidelines on it? We were like, okay, which is fine. It's just, I guess one of my concerns is if the rule you have on the books needs guidelines in order to make it more clear or make it more usable, there's probably something wrong with that rule, and we might ought to take a look at that rule a little bit more rather than publishing guidelines. So that's my concern for that one. Beyond that, I don't really have any heartburn over it. The one on the MFT board, kind of my concerns there, apart from yet another guideline, is just keep in mind that practice monitors, we don't really have a problem dealing with our practice monitors right now. We've got several in the orders you see today, in the agreed orders, but we really haven't had a problem with practice monitors at the council level. And so I'm not sure what this solves, and I'm a little leery about putting guidelines out on the website for, like, who's going to be looking on our website for guidelines for a practice monitor. The only people that are really going to wonder about what is a practice monitor charged and tasked with are people that we have selected and approved. You're not going to be just perusing our website looking for this. And so it's like, who is this going to be directed at? And I just want to make sure we don't get hoisted on our own petard, if you will. Somebody come in and say, well, you know, we ding somebody for failure to comply. And all of a sudden they're saying, well, if my practice monitor had been following your guidelines, I wouldn't have gotten in trouble with you. I'm a little worried about kind of scenarios like that happening. So those are just my concerns overall. I don't know if Patrick and Robert, if y'all want to chime in, but anyway, I'll shut up at that.
I'll just tell you, my preference is always rulemaking, because rules have to be proposed. Everyone gets a bite at the apple to give public comment. Lord knows I've had a lot of bad ideas that have been shot down, that didn't make it. And that's part of the process. My concern with guidelines is they do an end run around that public. I mean, certainly somebody could public comment on it, but us approving a guideline does not withstand the same rigor that a rule does, in terms of, starting at a board, getting kicked up to BHEC, governor's office gets a bite at, like, everyone gets their chance. The guidelines on new technologies or emerging practices, that feels a little different, because that's sort of a fluid thing in itself, and maybe we're not ready for fully baked rules on that. But to say, hey, we're aware of this, and hey, you're still beholden to all the same rules. We experienced this during COVID. When I forget if it was the national emergency, that COVID emergency, that essentially relaxed a bunch of HIPAA rules where we could actually do therapy over Zoom, which was certainly not HIPAA compliant, but it was a brave new world that moment, and that's what we did. This feels like it, and rightfully so, in that same vein. I'm looking at the guidelines on new technologies or emerging practices. Director Spinks, you talked about some of our agreed orders. There were some practice monitors in some of our agreed orders. Are those on the public record? Those agreed?
They are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm not running afoul. What I've noticed about practice monitors across our professions is that they always seem to be very responsive to whatever the specific need was. If the difference being, somebody had, I'm trying to think of some of the ones I've been involved in. Somebody had some life event happen, and what turned into an evening drink turned into alcoholism that affected their work. And so, did they do something wrong with a patient? No. Did their personal life boil over into their professional life? Yes. And then we do a practice monitor to make sure that they're getting the help that they need for they screwed up bad enough that we don't trust them to do it themselves. And so that's why we put a practice monitor. That's a very specific situation. So I guess my question with the second one, with the MFT board one, are we hamstringing ourselves by saying and hemming in this? And also, is it discouraging to practice monitors, because we need them at some point? Are we kind of, I don't know, getting less of what we want anyways?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
Yeah. So the way that this came to be is came out of our outreach committee, and basically one of our members and myself both had a practice monitor reach out to us independently and say, I'm a practice monitor. What does this mean and what do I do? And so basically we created this as a response to requests from practice monitors wanting some guidance on your practice monitor. What do you do? What's it supposed to look like? So it was that's why we created it. And we tried to create it so that it would be kind of general enough that, because the thing is the reason that somebody needs practice monitoring as you mentioned, some people might need practice monitoring because they have an alcohol issue. Other people might need practice monitoring because they need a little bit more guidance on a standard of care issues, right? And so we tried to create it general enough that like it would still be, the practice monitor could make it specific, we're not going to put in here, you should be monitoring them for alcohol use. That's not like what the person actually needs practice monitoring for.
Yeah, and I think one of the things after discussing this after the MFT meeting, we kind of realized while it's written as guidelines, the purpose of it is seems like it would be best served as a communication between staff and the actual practice monitor, or using parts of it, because that's truly who it's written for, right? And so usually like the guidelines are out for the general public, but for the most part, the general public doesn't need this. And so when we started thinking about it, we thought this might be best as like a direction to staff where we have, a compliance coordinator who will work with practice monitors, and they can provide documents or specific parts of this document to say, hey, you have a question about this area, or here's some general guidelines to help you understand what you're getting yourself into. So it might be, a suggestion is maybe be better used as for those purposes, as opposed to just a guideline that's out there for the general public.
If I remember correctly, we had talked about that in our committee meeting too, before we developed them, about whether it'd be better to kind of create something that like, like in your, when your letter from staff. And honestly, now I don't remember why, that was so long ago. I don't remember why we geared towards doing guidelines on the website as opposed to something for staff to send out.
I feel like this would be almost very useful, like in an ISC thing where it's like, go dust this off as a starting point of like, what do we need to do? Here's some great guidelines. But as an internal, that's an internal document at that point.
It's useful as an internal document.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the market for it is on the website for the general public to download.
I'm open to whatever staff thinks is best.
I mean, I would definitely use it as an internal document.
So the actions today, we need to approve. We have two things here to approve or not approve or provide direction on.
Right.
First of them, we're having the conversation with essentially two agenda items together. So we would need a motion on the guidelines for the use of new technologies or emergency practices, and we could, if we wanted to make the practice monitors one, we could just make that an internal document.
Correct.
Okay.
I have comments on the new and emerging technologies.
Let's take that one up right now, and then we can let's do one then the other. So
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
Go with that then.
Okay. I was just going to say, I mean, if y'all feel like this would be better, if staff feels like this would be better addressed as rules, then I'm wondering if maybe the better way to approach this, instead of trying to go through the standardization committee, is just to take it board by board.
You could, but the whole point behind standardization is to achieve the standardization and to not have that differentiation.
But sometimes it seems like, and again, I'm kind of new to BHEC, so this could be like, I cannot be understanding this correctly. I mean, sometimes it seems like we can achieve standardization sometimes it seems like maybe we are better able to achieve standardization going board by board than going through the actual standardization committee with BHEC.
You're right. You can achieve standardization that way. If it becomes critical that I think to really do it, you've got to develop a solid draft, and you have to shop it to the four boards before one actually proposes it, because once it starts through the process, everybody else is kind of stuck with whatever version was there, and they don't get an opportunity for input. Yeah. That's kind of why we like to go the standardization committee route at first, because then everybody gets a say in it from the get-go, and we actually know what we're then farming out to the boards. But I do get your concern, your view about.
That's why the four chairs are here too. I mean, the four chairs are on this council to go back, and if it is a standardization thing, you got to go back and see if your board, from the council to the board, if the board likes your ball of clay, and if it needs to be molded a little differently. I'll say, with the fact that the new and emerging the new technologies, emerging practices, that is so like amorphous. Like, I don't feel like we're ready for rules on that now. Like, I'm okay with this in this circumstance of a guideline because we don't have tons of them, and it's again pretty basic, and it's a new frontier, anyways. Yes, sir.
And can I offer just the conversation from the standardization committee, or at least I think a lot of the feedback we received was that in this particular topic, I think there's a lot of desire in the public to have more guidance. But ultimately, the members of the committee, the standardization committee, felt like all of the important principles and standards are already in the rules. That really there's not a gap in regulation. Our rules of all the boards already require confidentiality of records and information, require responsibility on the part of the licensees to make clinical judgments, require treatments to whatever treatment to only be provided if it's appropriate for that individual and to be ceased if it becomes not appropriate for that individual. So the idea that there was not actually any regulatory gap. And so the question then became, if there's no regulatory gap, is there any other necessary step to take? Which is why we redrafted this as a guideline. And in some ways, that means it's really not a guideline so much as an educational document for people who don't seem to remember how to apply the rules that we already have on the books. And whether that is worth the amount of time we're discussing it and whether to adopt it or not is up to y'all to decide.
So
but
it's
that's I think
so it's almost like it's taking the rules and just basically showing them how they apply to new and emerging practices.
And it's recognizing that this is something that is very big in the field and that's evolving. And it's a new frontier. And so I think it recognizes that, it puts credence in that, that we need to be aware of it, and essentially, plan, not necessarily, we don't know exactly how AI is going to develop. 2 years from now, it's going to be so different. So, just being aware of this and recognizing, I think, is kind of a key.
Any other thoughts?
Can I make a motion then that we adopt these guidelines for the website?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the guidelines for use of new technologies or emerging practices. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. All right. Moving on to review and consideration of guidelines for practice monitors, which we sort of already started that conversation.
May I make one more comment?
Please.
The other thing another reason maybe perhaps to put it on the website is so that if somebody is considering whether or not to be a practice monitor, they can actually have some sort of guidance before they're making that decision. Unless there's a way for somebody to reach, because again, if we use that as an internal memo or an internal document, if somebody is deciding whether or not to be a practice monitor, I mean, does it make sense? Like if somebody's trying to decide what that even entails, this might be a helpful way for them to make that decision.
Well, the selection process it typically goes something like this. You get an order entered against you. It is your job to go out and find somebody that can provide the monitoring or supervision mandate. So you're probably not going to have somebody just wandering the website going, that might be something I'd be interested in doing. They will have already been solicited and sought out.
And that's when I think they would then go to the website, is they get solicited and they go, what does that even involve? And they go to the website and they're like, oh, this is what it involves.
The problem with that is when I read this, it's pretty intense. And I'm afraid you're going to scare people off from wanting to serve, because practice monitoring, if you're being selected for that, that means the individual has done something just shy of a suspension or a revocation. And from a very practical consideration, sometimes we're not really worried about the clinical side of it. It may just be the self-care side or any other on the spectrum. This makes it sound like you're going to have to be their supervisor as an associate or something, and that you're just going to be all in their business for all purposes. And I'm like, I don't know. If I looked at that, I'd be like, that's too much. I thought I was just monitoring you to make sure you weren't showing up or, weren't abusing the substance or whatever the case may be. To me, it just, when I read it, it looks pretty intense. And so
That's fair.
We're at a time too. I've had conversations with licensees over the idea of this is just the idea of supervision in general, that there's a hesitancy to do so because it's like, I don't want to sign up for every screw up that this newbie is going to potentially make. And I'm like, yeah, well, you really shouldn't be responsible for every single little thing that they do wrong. Like, what you're there to do is make sure that they don't really foul it up bad, like egregious, whatever. And so, like, even in that's a whole nother discussion about the scope of supervision. I'm kind of with Daryl on this one. The fact is that, like, oh, I got to be responsible for all this and you're already in trouble? Absolutely not.
It's a fair point. We are working on supervision guidelines too.
Yeah. It's an issue. I think, and I almost think we'll talk about that later. But I'm sorry.
We let MFT do all the work. Okay. And we like to let them do all the work.
We're the smallest board. We get to do all the work.
So I've got a philosophical question when it relates to guidelines and rules. And I guess I think of guidelines as things that support a specific rule versus independent guidelines dangling by themselves. Is that how we think about this, or
we can think about it
independent guidelines?
Yeah, I think we can think about it any way we want, but I would agree with you. I think that guidelines should buttress or just context maybe to a rule, and I think that the emerging technology or emerging practices certainly contextualizes the rules. But yeah, that is when I get scared, when we start doing guidelines that are a whole new thing that essentially stand on their own, that essentially function as an opinion piece on how this rule is going to be, enforced. If you're changing how something's enforced, do a rule, like make it clear. So does that answer the question?
Yes.
Any other discussion? All right, so we have the guidelines for practice monitors before us. Options are to leave it, adopt it, make it an internal document.
Mr. Chair, I like the idea of making an internal document for now, seeing how it goes. And then if we need to make adjustments down the road, we can do that.
Okay. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay. So
And I will second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to make it an internal document. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. And thank you to the work for the MFT board for those guidelines. I think they will be very useful in terms of maybe even handing it to somebody. Say, and if somebody has questions, they can call us.
Oh, it's absolutely going to get used.
Yeah, good. All right, so we are at just shy of 2 hours right now. We're at I've got 11:53 a.m. Let's come back at 12:03, and then we will dive into. Okay, yeah, and sorry, and 5H, we don't need to go into executive session.
No, sir.
Okay, so we will go stand in recess for 10 minutes. Come back at 12:03, 10 minutes from now, whatever your clock says, and we will take up rules.
Thank you.
All right. Time is 12:03, and the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council is back in session from our short recess. We're going to go ahead with rulemaking. And so housekeeping for the council and for the public. What I want to do is we can take these in chunks in terms of the discussion real quick, where we can discuss as needed if we need to, only if you need to, not for the sake of hearing ourselves speak, but whatever needs to be discussed, we can start with, we'll start with 6 for BHEC. And we'll just go one by one in terms of the discussion. We can, if the council prefers, we can do all of the adoptions and all of the proposals as 2 separate motions, but as one, and then just ask to pull out whatever rule. If you want to vote on it differently, if you want to vote on any rule differently than approval, pull it out so we can take a vote on it and you can vote against it. or see the will of the board, and the board may kill it. So, does that make sense to everybody? Any questions? Okay, so we'll start with BHEC. Review and consideration of the following rule changes. So that's 6A. Is there anything we need to discuss there from
So-
staff?
I was just gonna say, so you're saying that like, I mean, like my understanding is 6A, like these are all basically statutory requirements, all these changes that we're making for the most part. And so could I just make a motion that we wouldn't be adopting, what would we be doing? Proposing. We propose the rules under 6A and just,
You can do that.
okay, then I will make a motion to propose the rules under 6A.
Okay, it's been moved.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Aye.
No, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Rule changes. This is adoption 88216B. And there's 3 items under 6B.
The one change, Mr. Chair, there is one staff would recommend on 882.2 that you adopt that rule without subsection E.
Okay. Without
And-
and sorry, say it again for all of our edification.
Sure, if I can explain, Mr. Chair. So you got your public comments to these 3 proposed rules. And actually, counterintuitively, there was a lot of support and a lot of very happy LPC associates to the language proposed in 882.2 new subsection E. And while we still think it's a good idea and are glad for their support, and then some other comments made us realize we're not sure everybody's on the same page, and we would rather the individual boards get a lot more clear. What we were trying to say is that when you have hours requirements or supervision requirements that are designed for a full-time associate or full-time work, that if the rules don't otherwise say something, we as staff can recognize proportionality. If somebody is working only half-time, they only have to do half of what it says. Only that important phrase of if the rules don't otherwise say, there's some disagreement. For example, the MFT board requires 1 hour a week of supervision. We as staff would interpret that as that's a minimum amount of supervision per week, regardless of whether or not you are working part-time or full-time. However, it does raise the question, and I think we will bring to the MFT board to decide if someone does not provide any services in a given week, do they still have to have an hour of supervision? That's something I think the rule is going to need to clarify. Similarly, in the LPC board, their rule says 4 hours of supervision per month. And thus, a lot of folks were reading that to say, under this proposed rule, if you were doing part-time work, you would not have to have 4 hours per month. You would only have to have 2 hours per month. I'm not entirely sure whether the LPC board would agree with that interpretation or not. And so we don't want to get over our skis and adopt language that starts confusing people more than helping. But I do think this is an area each board will probably need to clarify its rules regarding full-time versus part-time and what people should do because we get questions a lot from somebody saying, I am not getting that many clients. I see one person this week and then nobody next week. What do I need to do next week? And so our recommendation is adopt this rule without subsection E and let us take it to the boards to clarify.
All right. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to accept, to propose 882.2 without E.
And then proposing
sorry.
the other ones as well?
Yes,
All
and
the other
to
proposed?
go ahead and adopt 882.1 and 882.21.
Proposing those, right?
Adopting.
Oh, that's adopting. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved in second. Sorry, any further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 They say no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. All right, moving on to 7. Is that right?
Mhm.
Moving on to 7.
Do you want me to say anything? Who takes this? Do y'all take this? Do I take this?
I will.
Go
I
for
will
it.
happily take because let me just lay out the overall for each of the boards under the proposed rules. What you will mainly see are statutorily required proposed changes, updating rules related to credits given to military service members and their spouses. We are aligning with new statutory language, as well as statutory language regarding becoming a child custody evaluator and the requirements to be qualified for that. The rules are simply aligning with statute. In the MFT proposed rules specifically, you have a rule that would eliminate the term regional from regional accreditation to still require accreditation of schools, but recognizing that you could have regional or national or institutional, that all of those are fine. And then, Mr. Chair, I can also just, do we want to take 7 alone or all the proposed for 7, 8, 9, and 10?
We could. We obviously let everyone discuss. I like that in terms of efficiency. I like that in terms of anybody wants to pull anything out. Just tell me what you want to pull out if that's the case. Otherwise, we can go through. I'm sorry. Propose it. We can go through the proposals first.
Right.
Okay. So for 7, 8, 9,
and
10.
10A.
Do we want to? Okay. So let's do the proposals then for all of them then.
Okay. So that was
And that makes sense too. We just did BHEC. Now we've got all of the boards.
right. And they have those military and child custody evaluation are in the proposals across all 4.
Okay.
Is there anything else outlining, like in any of those that?
So the specifics in MFT I mentioned. In psychology, the specific rule changes proposed are updating the name of the school psychologist per statutory changes, as well as cleanup surrounding becoming a licensed psychological associate. Basically, there was an exception that if you had less than 30 hours in your degree, you could bring in up to 12 hours. But if you had 31, you couldn't, even though that fell short. So it's harmonizing to allow somebody to bring up to 12 hours across. That's in psychology. There is no outlier in counselors other than some cleanup language to just make the rule around supervision read more cleanly. And then proposed under social work, you have a laundry list of rules being proposed. Other than the statutory changes, essentially the proposals are to reorganize the social work rules. It is functionally not changing the requirements. It's cleaning up some language and it's reorganizing to make it a lot more user-friendly.
The only thing, Mr. Chair, I would add back on psych is just for the public's and Dr. Cartwright's and Mr. Bridges' edification. The proposed versions of the psychology rules reflect some non-substantive editorial changes from the version that was proposed by the psychology board, so that we are complying with Representative Button's request in her letter. Again, it is non-substantive. We were going to adopt the exact same changes on the adoption side. We were just going to adopt with changes, but now we had time to go ahead and incorporate them in proposed rules, and we'll be done with it once we propose it and adopt it. So I just want to make that clear and for the public's edification.
Thank you. And that just is in response to Chair Button's letter that it's going to just be school psychologist and not
Correct.
licensed school psychologist.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you call yourself a licensed school psychologist, we'll still know what you are, but
that will be an acceptable title to use.
For everybody out there worrying, don't. Okay. So these are the rule proposals. There moved to propose.
So I move to accept the proposals for 7, 8, 9, and 10.
That would be a good motion.
I'll second the motion.
And it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. All right, those are proposed. Now we've got adoptions.
Where has that method
Chair,
in all these years to?
On
I don't know.
On 9B,
9B?
LPC is going to pull those.
9B, you'd like those pulled separately?
We just want to withdraw them.
You want to withdraw them? Okay.
And so there are no rules proposed for adoption under 10B, and the board recommends LPC board recommends withdrawing the rules up for adoption
On 9B. And so that would leave us with 7 and 8.
Am I allowed to ask why the LPC board decided to withdraw those?
Yeah, we we had a lot of public comment that we thought was very helpful, and we feel like there's a lot more work for us to do on developing some solutions for our associates and our supervisors. And so we just wanted to take some time.
Was this the rule? These were the rules regarding remediation plans?
They had quite a bit of stuff in there. Yeah,
Okay.
remediation plans was in there, but there was a lot more going into the associate structure, the way the associate license is set up, and we have more information and we want to take a deeper dive into it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so are there any questions about 7 and 8 adoptions? Okay.
So 7A, 7B, and 8B are the proposed rules up for adoption for MFT and psychology, and they largely focus on language related to cooperating across disciplines, and the language will be the same across all of the boards ultimately. That does not require working together, but requires you to talk to each other, attempt to, assuming the client says yes. And then the other is sort of harmonizing that under supervision across all the boards, supervisors should let their associates or supervisees know if something's going wrong and provide some sort of remediation plan for how they can do better if something is going wrong, and that the supervisees or associates need to share that information with future supervisors if there's something they need to improve on, and share any notifications of a complaint because their supervisor might be involved. And so that's essentially 7B and 8B.
Will the other boards be adopting similar rules?
Yes, the language was already essentially in the social work, and to whatever extent it wasn't, it's just been proposed by y'all. And then the comments and further work that needs to be done by the LPC board was not really focused on those changes, but other changes. And so the language may not be exactly identical when it comes out, but it will substantively, I think, be the same.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any motions? We'd entertain a motion to, I'm sorry, we're on adoption for 7 and 8. And there's 7B and 8B. There is nothing on 9B and 10B that we're taking up.
I move to adopt 7B and 8B.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, we probably do need an affirmative motion and vote to withdraw 9B.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'll make a motion to withdraw rule 9B from the
It's
agenda.
moved. You want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, that motion carries and been withdrawn. Okay, so that brings us to member boards updates. Not everybody at once.
Is there a particular order you would like for us to go in?
Pardon?
Is there a particular order you would like?
You
for
know,
us to
we can go BHEC first. So real quick, we want to talk about Virginia real quick, and what we did.
Absolutely. So just a general update on the psychology licensure exam project and where things sit. Last week we traveled to Virginia and met with their regulatory committee of their board and had a really great conversation. They were very interested, I think, in the project. We are offering to go and speak to really any state board that will have us, and we have on the books. We're going to visit with Ohio, Oregon, Tennessee, and Florida, and we're working on a date with New York. And so those are all in the works. The feedback we generally got was essentially there were glad it's y'all and not us. Because it is a massive undertaking to create a new exam, but lots of agreement that the idea of having an alternative pathway, that one exam does not fit all, really did resonate with folks and frustrations that they've had with the current exam not meeting everyone's needs at all times. In addition to meeting with the boards, Mr. Bridges and I will be going next week to the annual meeting of ASPPB, where I'm sure this will come up, and we will do our best to represent the state well and inform people of what we are and are not doing. Chair Blemitz in Virginia made it clear, and we have made it clear that we have certain commitments that we are not doing away with the EPPP in Texas. We will continue to recognize the EPPP as a valid licensure exam and welcome people who wish to take that one. And that we will continue to have an exam and continue to uphold strong licensing standards and to pursue reciprocity and other avenues for mobility with other states. And that continues to be the case. In terms of the project itself, just to let y'all know, we have hired a psychology fellow from University of Texas across the street from their PhD program, and his name is Luis Pacheco, and he'll be helping us comb through all the survey responses we've gotten and to organize very soon some work groups where we will get folks from across the country to provide input on what the design of this exam should look like. And so that will be the next several months of the project, just getting that feedback.
Very good. Got anything?
Nothing to add to that.
Okay.
Thanks, Robert.
I can update on MFT.
Please.
We recently completed a CE survey of all of our licensees. And from that survey, we have developed a radical revision to CE requirements that I will hopefully, staff will hopefully maybe be drawing up some tentative rules for us that we then hope to shop around to all the other boards and hopefully get everybody on board with our radical plan. So that is coming down the pipeline. MFT is also in the process of collecting data from LPC Associates about their supervision experiences. And data collection actually ends tomorrow. And so I'm hoping to start analyzing that data pretty soon. This winter, spring, we will also be collecting data from supervisors about their supervision experience. And altogether, we just hope to use this data to inform supervision rules, but then also, like I mentioned earlier, maybe doing some supervision guidance for the website. I'm also hoping that at a future date, the board can also conduct some research around hours requirements. That's kind of something that has been talked about at the national level regarding just how many hours does somebody really need to be, ready for ready for unsupervised clinical practice. And so anyway, so we're going to hopefully be meeting this fall to maybe pitch some ideas around how we can maybe do some research around hours requirements. So that's kind of what MFT is working on.
Is that just kind of a right sizing thing and figuring out, are we over?
Yeah, are we over? Are we under? I mean, there's just the thing is there's absolutely no research out there about how many hours is required. So it's all just like taking a shot in the dark. And so, you know, why not do some research and figure out like really where it does, like really what makes somebody competent,
right?
But also, again, thinking about minimum standards, like what is the minimum in order to be like minimally efficient or minimally competent versus like effective?
Where's that law? Where's the diminishing returns point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's some different research we could potentially do related to that. So we'll see.
Fantastic.
Dr. Merchant, I will say that that is an issue that we had brought up at one time at Psych, I believe. And we actually tried to engage the association. It's ARC is the acronym. It's the research division of HHSC. And we were trying to get them to assess what elements of licensure lead to, you know, a competent practitioner. They basically said, no, we're not going to do that. We don't even know how to do that. It would be very difficult.
Well,
I'm enthusiastic. We're asking the question again.
Yeah, I sort of say it's a good question. It really is.
That's one of the benefits of having PhDs on your licensing board is that they know how to do research. I'm not that master's levels don't, you know, but that is kind of in my wheelhouse.
No, I got you. I'm just telling you, we went a little ways down that road at Psych, and the feds basically told us we can't do this. So I'll share with you what we got.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
We'll go down the line. I'll do social work. So we met in Vermont in August, and that was the first opportunity to discuss the idea with the ASWB board about looking at a Spanish language exam. And ASWB also manages regulatory boards in Canada, and they have been pushing for years for a French language exam because there are provinces in Canada that French is the first language. And so having been party to some of those discussions, I guess I understand a little bit about the difficulty. I know Will even brought it up, Will Francis, NASW. There's phrases in Spanish that we use in Texas that don't mean the same thing in Maine. And those kind of things have to be adjusted for. And that was part of the problem with the French exam. So there's that going on. Again, we'll meet next month and talk about it some more. One other thing that nationwide, we were not able to enter into the interstate compact for social work this legislative session. So we discussed that a little bit in our meeting, and we still support it and still would like to see it happen. So that's something that can be on social workers in Texas agenda for the next couple of years to start looking at. And then finally, there's an interesting grant research project that was paid for out of ASWB that I think Cole is in Washington State, but there's a researcher that got this grant, and he is building an AI model that you set it up, and don't ask me questions because I don't know, but it's set up and these inputs go in, and let's say at Lisa's MFT board, and they say, well, we want to reduce supervision from 3,000 hours to 1,500 hours. They compile this with AI data and say, well, then the likelihood of complaints will probably go up by this if you do that. And they're trying to make it so people playing with CE requirements and supervision requirements to create this initial model. So I think it's interesting. Is it going to work? I have no idea, but that's something that's going on as well.
I think the AI discussion is a great one, and just an observation. I was using it the other day, and I was without going into the details of it, I was asking it sort of a legal question, and I asked it to use legal reasoning. I asked it to cite its sources, and it did a really good job of reasoning, citing sources, citing cases and case law. Just so happens though, about 80% of the cases cited were completely made up. and I'm like searching for such and such versus the state of wherever, and I'm like, well, how come I can't find this anywhere? And it was completely made up, and it was 100% wrong, but never in doubt. The AI model, it was just not a doubt in the world, but it was 100% wrong. And so that's where like I'm like super. It's great for creative whatever, but when it comes to like,
is it real?
Is it real? And that experience of how and just how compelling it was. Like B-Law, I'm not a lawyer, but B-Law was my best class. Like I'm okay with contracts and that. It was so compelling and so 100% wrong.
Yeah, the background on this that he's created comes from like changing traffic laws and stuff. Like, you know, if you increase the speed limit, do more people die? You know, I mean, all kinds of. He explained it all, and it makes sense the way he explains it.
It's good if it has good inputs and good guardrails on how it reasons, but if it doesn't, like,
who knows?
Who knows what you get out? See Daryl over there, his eyes getting wide.
Yeah, that's.
I'm just thinking if Chair Hallbauer and I are, you know, like, you mean you actually have to do real cases in your briefing? I mean,
yeah, I was going to add that it's always been like that. We're just getting caught now.
Okay. Who else has updates? Chair Hallbauer?
I wanted to mention that we have 4 of our board members that are going to be giving a panel presentation at the TCA Professional Growth Conference next month in Houston. And I would encourage TCA membership that is going to be there, or if you can't attend, but there's something that you would like someone to address, please route your questions and your issues to your TCA liaison so that we will have an idea of what the membership would like to hear about at our during our panel presentation. A lot of times we've had the same members every year, but this year we have new faces attending, and so I'm encouraged by that. Dr. Taylor, anything that you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hallbauer. We had a lovely, in response to your letter, Mr. Chair, we had, which was a lovely letter, by the way, thank you. We had invited a nonprofit, the Grant Halliburton Foundation, to no relation to the oil company, to come down and give us a presentation on some of the things that they have done. And you can go to the website and learn more about it if you want to. We have all that. I think staff has all that information. But essentially, Grant Halliburton, 19-year-old, took his own life 20 years ago, and his parents set up this foundation, and it's really grown, and it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And one of their components is a product called Here for Texas, which is a free phone line. It's not 24/7. It's not crisis, but they connect citizens of Texas with with mental health professionals, and it's all licensees, and it's free for the licensee to be on the program for Here for Texas. You get a profile, you get that set up, no cost to you. That's totally free, and it's a free service for the public. And they just help you get connected with somebody that speaks Spanish, that lives near you, or can offer telehealth, or has Cigna, or whatever you need, and they do it all. We just thought that was really wonderful. We loved the presentation, and I just wanted to just make a note about that here today.
Perfect. Thank you for putting it on the record. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, just as we're on the counselor board, one bit of information that is relevant and interesting, I hope. NBCC, the national group that does the counseling licensure exam, will be rolling out for popular use across the country a Spanish language counselor exam in the next month or so. They've had it in Puerto Rico for several years, and now they're offering it up to everybody.
That's awesome. Cool. I wonder what we can learn from what they did and what their process was of what we can learn. So if anybody crosses paths or has any way of asking that question, I'm curious, how did they do it?
We'll certainly follow up on that. I know ASPPB had a Spanish language version of the EPPP at one time too, but had some serious issues, and they
Yeah.
ended up having to kill that program.
I imagine maintaining two exams in 2 languages is just own ball of wax. Chair Hallbauer.
Yeah, one last thing that I meant to mention. Daryl let us know a few weeks ago that LPC Associates and LPC fully licensed membership had just crossed 40,000 in Texas. And I wanted to make a note of that because that's incredible. Of course, that we still have the severe shortage here in Texas, but we're growing, and hitting that 40,000 milestone was pretty tremendous. And Daryl, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
And that was LPCAs?
Combined.
Combined, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to tag on to Chair Hallbauer, I think social workers 35-ish, a little over 35,000 for the combined licenses.
Fantastic. All right. Recommendations for agenda items for next council meeting.
If it pleases the chair, I'd like to add the Grant Halliburton Foundation discussion.
Okay.
On there.
Okay. We'll put that on there.
Also, John, the that public comment that from earlier that might be a good agenda
Yes.
item.
Anonymous complaints.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think we should have. I think we don't need to dedicate more than 5 to 7 minutes of discussion for it. But I would like to put on the record and have a discussion about challenges with anonymous complaints, and being also recognizing the comment we got today. We'll put that back into circulation for the next meeting. I don't know. I don't know. I would put it to the will of the council. Do we want to put ketamine back on the agenda to discuss it? I know it's just something that kind of keeps coming up, but I don't want to derail the meeting with half an hour.
Robert, do you have any idea when that? I mean, I know studies take a long time.
Yeah, I think the medical board is just starting, so I really don't know that we'll have any update for you by the next meeting.
I talked with the executive director for the medical board the other day. The issue they are studying is IV injectable ketamine. And so that's going to be a little different from what was described in the public comment that we heard earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of expressed my concern with the ED over there about, I don't know if that's going to happen within a doctor's or a healthcare provider's office. So it's a little different when you're talking about the oral tablets. So what I would recommend is we wait till we see a little bit more development from the medical board and see what they're going to do, if they're going to move beyond the IV ketamine assisted low dose therapy. And there are other, we need to wait and see also if there are any cues coming from the legislature on this issue, because we don't want to get out over our skis here.
My concern is that what was just described to us in public comment was very loose application of very powerful drugs and potentially within our licensing population. And that's my concern. I understand they're not the prescribers of it, but what I'm asking the question, like, what we don't have any role in prescribing. It sounds like our licensees, like, are they facilitating? Like, and where is that line in terms of participating and being part of ketamine therapy? Are our licensees doing?
But even she was talking about, it sounds like she wasn't even trying to assist it. It's her clients who are getting these prescriptions on their own and taking it on their own at home. So it's like she wasn't even a part of that process.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
The question I had when we first started discussing this kind of behind the scenes was, what, if any, requirements do we need to have for licensees who participate? In other words, do you need to have some sort of safety plan in place for how you will deal with an individual that ODs or whatever has a bad reaction to it? What's your safety plan?
Chair Hallbauer, just chime in. I'm not seeing you raise your hand, so unless Robert's pointing at you, so just speak up.
Okay. One thing I wanted to add is next meeting, I'd like to hear more from staff regarding the proposed or possible use of law student law student interns for addressing complaints on whether this is going to be a policy that we need to vote on or whether they're moving forward with it and they're just kind of letting us know how it goes, what potential safeguards that we have in there, whether it has to be in person or whether it can be farmed out. I think it's a good idea. And if we can make that work and if that can alleviate some of the complaint resolution, the lengthy complaint resolution times, I want that on the agenda for the next meeting to either vote on a policy proposal or get a status update on an implementation plan.
Let me just take the council's temperature right now. I'm not asking you to vote on anything, but would y'all be more comfortable if we developed a policy, brought it back to you, discussed it on as an agenda topic before we took any action on that or did anything? Because I mean, candidly, and I have the authority to just do it on my own as the ED, but I'm not going to do that if y'all are not comfortable with that. And I'm not. You don't have to make a final decision now, but if you're not comfortable, just tell me, and we'll work up a policy. That way, we can have something to talk about at the next meeting.
Chair Hallbauer, do you have?
I am comfortable with it. I would just, this is the first I'd heard about it. I think it's a good idea. But if Daryl, if you need like a green light on moving forward with how it would work, basically, yeah, please move forward with that.
Okay.
I don't have strong opinions one way or the other, but if Chair Hallbauer is okay with it and Daryl, you're okay with it, then I mean, okay. I have no concerns.
Okay.
Daryl, I would just want to know, is it going to be like, are you just going to go across the street and see if they'll come over to the office, or can it be done just like farming out the work to and having it done online? That's kind of what I'm curious about.
We really hadn't gotten that far into it yet. We're just still in the infancy stage of the idea. So we haven't thought that far into it yet.
Okay. Well, I'd want to see if it could be more than just like a summer program, or whether, we can actually have it ongoing even during the traditional semesters.
Understood.
Okay. Good idea. I like it.
Coming back to the ketamine thing, if we don't have a proposal, I don't want to put it on the agenda just to talk about it. Obviously my concerns are known, but I don't want to just throw it on the agenda without an action item. So unless somebody else feels strongly about putting it on the agenda, we can leave that one.
Okay.
I think at some point it'd be nice to have invited testimony. Like I'd love to hear all sides of the issue.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying we need to do that in January or in February, but at some point I think it would be good to hear all sides of the issue. I would
support that too.
What if we did some kind of a town hall that was focused on this to solicit feedback from the practitioners out in the field? Like, what are you seeing in this area? Kind of a data gathering, and just make it an open forum where we
have that before we come back.
Yes.
Yeah. I would support. I hope that people would be brave enough to just tell us what the heck they think.
Yeah.
Like that would be my plea to the public and our licensees is like safe space. Tell me what you think.
Okay. I'll probably try to get something set up in December then.
Yeah. I was just going to say, just, for what psychology did with the town hall back when we were discussing the EPPP, I thought that was incredibly valuable. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the town hall format.
Okay, we'll do that.
Cool. Any other thoughts? All right. With that, my desk is clear. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Been moved. Second. And hearing no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. The time is 12:44.